Welcome to Cooking 101 with yours truly, Daniel Weisberg. Now, before we enter the kitchen, the first thing you gotta know is safety. Okay, so for safety, right now we're gonna learn about the types of burns that you can possibly get in the kitchen and how to avoid them. So we have right here 6 types of burns. First one, we have dry heat. Second, electricity. Third, friction. Fourth, we have scalds. Fifth is radiation. And lastly, we have chemical. Now we're going to learn about the 2 different types of fires. So right now, as you can see, we have a regular fire and a grease fire. We're going to learn how to put these out if it ever occurs in your kitchen. So for a regular fire, what you're going to need to do is first take the lid and put it on top. You're going to need to seal whatever's catching on fire. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to turn the temperature all the way down and you're done. That is how you deal with a regular fire. Now for a grease fire, what you're going to need to do is you are going to want to pour baking soda, flour, or baking powder onto the fire. After that is done, you can proceed to put the lid on and close whatever is heating it. Now, what we're going to need to do is learn about how to stop yourself from catching on fire, or if you're on fire, how to put yourself out, or another person. So there's 2 important things for this. You're going to need a safety blanket, or fire blanket, sorry, and you are going to need a fire extinguisher. So for regular fires or a grease fire, never use a fire extinguisher. So if you want to put yourself out, what you're going to need to do is the fire blanket, you wrap yourself around in the fire blanket or cover a large surface such as a desk or your kitchen. If you're on fire, remember to also stop, drop, and roll. Now that you know that, and also you should know the fire extinguisher's placement in your classroom and also the safety blankets or fire blankets location in your classroom. Now that you know those steps, we're going to move on to burns. So for burns, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your burn in cold water, and then after you put your burn in the cold water, you're going to have to keep it there until the pain stops. If you can't submerge your hand in cold water for some reason, get a cold towel or cloth to put your hand in and keep it there again until the pain stops, and make sure to change them frequently. Now, what you need to know for this is you need no ice. Ice will damage any burned parts, and try and do these steps as fast as possible. Now, one last thing to know before you enter the kitchen is the 3 different types of choking we're going to need to learn. And the last thing before we enter the kitchen is going to be choking. Now, there's 3 different types of choking. There is partial obstruction, which is when they can breathe in and out, but they can't cough. The second one is another partial obstruction, but in this, they can breathe in, but not out, and they're coughing. Now, for the last one, this is complete obstruction. This is no breathing or coughing whatsoever. Now, you must remember the worldwide symbol for choking, and that is this. If you see someone like this, make sure that someone can help you out, or if they know the Heimlich maneuver, if they can do that to them too. 2, 1. Now that we're finally entering the kitchen, we need to know 3 important things. First is to put on an apron. Second, tie back any long hair if you have any. As I don't have long hair, we can keep it short. And third is to wash your hands. These steps are of the utmost importance to ensure no contamination in the kitchen. Now, the next thing we need to know is the 6 hand washing essentials, since I already have my apron and my short hair. Now we must know the 6 hand washing essentials. Think: water, soap, vigor, dry, and lastly, think. After washing your hands, you must now be ready to start cooking. If you're cutting in your kitchen, remember to use a cutting board and always separate your meats and your other products, as this can cause contamination in your foods. One last thing to know for hand washing is you must hand wash for 20 seconds for happy birthday twice. Now that we're in the kitchen and we're finally using knives, now we need to learn how to avoid cuts. So for avoiding cuts, an easy way to do it is use the right knife for the job. Now the next easy way is to not use any dull knives that can slip off the food and potentially cut you. Next thing is never cut in your hand. If the knife goes through the food, if you're not using a dull knife, it can cut your hand and cause severe damage. Now, the next thing is to cut away from your body. This will make sure that you don't cut anywhere around your stomach or any other part of your body to ensure no damage is caused. And the last one is never open cans, as the knife could slip and it's just a bad idea in general. The last thing to know about knives is that they are made up of carbon steel and chromium. When using a knife, you must know these indicators of a good knife. Flexibility with some knives. Others are different and don't have as much flexibility, and that is okay. But some knives, you need that flexibility to cut whatever you're cutting properly. The next one is that the rivets should be flush with the handle. That means the knife is properly in place and it won't slip out or anything like that. And the next one after that is that the rivets should be flush with the handle. That holds everything in place and make sure nothing is loose. Now the next thing we need to know is that the knife goes all the way to the back of the handle. That with the flush rivets, or the rivets flush with the handle, will ensure that your knife does not slip and is held in place properly. Now the last thing we need to know of a good knife is that the handle is made of high temperature resisting plastic, so it won't catch on fire or anything such as that. Now that you know about knives and have cut your food, now you're ready to cook it. What you'll need for cooking might be a pot or pan. If this ever occurs, you make sure that your pot handles are faced towards the center of the stove to avoid knocking it over. Say your pot, the handle is facing off and you bump into it, everything will go on the ground. You could get burned if there is boiling anything in it, and that is not good. When you are using pans in the oven, make sure to remove them with oven mitts to avoid burns of any kind. Now that we have made our meal, we have to wash the dishes that we used. First thing about washing dishes is we must clear the table of any sort of things. The next thing we must do is scrape off the dishes and make sure there's nothing left on them so that you don't have to wash too hard, as this might break any glassware or anything such as that. I will tell you about the washing dishes order, but first you must also know that dishes should go in one sink and that you should rinse plates and bowls, and also you should soak pots and pans if you have. And I'm going to tell you about the dish washing order. This is very important to ensure that you do not cut yourself on any of these dishes, as they might be sharp if you're washing knives, or so that glassware or plates don't break and you have glass, which can cut you and just be all around bad. So first thing on our dishwashing order is glassware. Second thing is cutlery. Third thing is dinnerware. The fourth thing, as I said before, is the preparation dishes. And fifth thing is pots and pans, if you have used them in your cooking. After washing the dishes, we must put them in a drain board to dry. After drying them, we must put them away, dry out the drain board, wash the taps and everything so everything is clean, and then put everything away that you have used. Thank you for watching, and be safe in the kitchen. This was Daniel Weisberg with Cooking 101. I hope you enjoyed, and remember, if you can lean, you can clean.